We have had a client for about 2 years now. They were referred to us by another agency that I actually was doing consulting for before I did MarketLead. This client, e-commerce, selling over-the-counter goods in America. And when they were working with this previous agency, I think they were making about $80,000 a month, and with about a 5x ROAS. Then they started working with me, literally within the first month, 250 grand, and consistently with a 10x ROAS. So they've been literally bowing at my feet for years, and amazing client, but just things were amazing. And then earlier this year, because they resell other branded products, there was an automatic review of their feed that they were reselling another brand of products, which was a copywritten term, and the feed just got suspended. And literally for 6 months, it's been fully suspended. So I was like having chats with the client, asking them what they were doing about the feed. They had a company trying to resolve the feed issues, nothing fixed. So I just made a recommendation to them, like, guys, why don't we just create a new website, literally do it on Shopify, just do everything again, upload all the feed, because they could transfer the feed over, or like the product catalog. And they did that. It took them about a month and a half to do the whole website. And literally we're in the first week of running the ads now. We've spent, I think, just under $1,000, and we've done a 22x ROAS. So I think we've done about $17,000 from 600 spend. Now, whilst that doesn't sound like a high spend, that's already with 6,000 clicks, 22x ROAS, 400 purchases. So the nature of this is their last account was operating at about a 10x with me, but because of the new website, the feed optimizations that we've done now, because of the new feed and with the new backend, we're already getting it at 22. Now it's dropped down over the last few days to about 17, but I know it's going to continue staying there. So that was a pretty cool story, that we've gone from a client that was already going well, doing about $250,000 a month at a 10x ROAS, now moving them over to a new website, no SEO, no optimization, nothing except just the Google feed and the website being done on Shopify with a 22x ROAS with the feed optimizations that we've done. So yeah, that's what's happened so far. And it was just really illuminating for me why this is really important, because there's a lot of factors here. Like, there's no excuses, like being like, oh, it's a new website, or hey, there's no SEO, or the pages aren't optimized. It's really interesting to see these results. And these aren't just in the Google ads. I've got the Shopify results in the back end. The revenue is literally dollar for dollar. And there's no SEO, there's no organic. So it's really cool to see that, being able to go fresh live with a new website, a new feed, a new merchant center, being able to do tens of thousands of dollars in sales within days at a really high ROAS. It just really opened up my mind to the extent of how much can be done by just implementing like, you and I are really good at this stuff. But a lot of times when we work with clients, we're starting off where their last touch point was. So then we're trying to improve it from there, rather than going from ground zero and seeing how fast we can go and improve it. So yeah, that's kind of my rant so far. But I think the things I want to share is, number one is, I still think it's the most important thing, feed optimization. And this feed has about 27,000 products. So doing mass feed optimizations with product titles, product SKUs, what were the other things? Custom labeling and other labeling things, just to actually segment it on a mass scale using Google Sheets, it just reminded me of the simple things work. They really do work. And I think a lot of people still try to look for these crazy advanced things, but the reality is, for shopping, from my perception, is feed optimization is like the holy grail.
Yeah, how
What
I
are your
look
thoughts,
at it.
mate?
Yeah, how I look at it is the product feed in Google Shopping or Microsoft as well. That is your SEO on the advertising side for your shopping ads, right? So think about it that way, especially people coming from the SEO world or business owners doing it themselves that are used to thinking about, how do we rank organically, right?
Yeah.
How can we optimize the site speed? What about the images? What kind of content and keywords are going to be on there? Your product feed is not dramatically different. I mean, it's not one to one by any means, But it's this is how you're telling Google what you're selling and what you're more importantly telling the audience you offer, and you're trying to get that ranked across a very competitive field. At this point, 2025, you and your competition, it's going to be full of people selling similar things to you, and that means you can't get away with the same old generic titles, the same old generic descriptions that don't really have any keywords in them. You've got to be thinking deeper. Yes, you're right. The simplicity is what works, but you still have to do that correctly. You can't just haphazardly have a product feed to set up automatically. You got to go in there and optimize it every once in a while if you want to keep being competitive in a very, very competitive space now.
Man, and I think these are those things that because you and I have done this for so long, that the simplicity of the nature of it, we can forget it. Because if you do the product title optimization on the website, it makes the product titles look weird. Like you've got like the product title called like white's cup with flour on it, and then you've got all these like SEO terms after it. You can be like, this is weird, but you get to do that keyword stuffing or keyword optimization in the product feed, either in the description or the titles. And even after all these years, I still see, like, I actually look at my clients who are making a lot of money and looking at their competitors in the feed, and their competitors who are bigger companies, like literally multinational companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, they're not doing the feed optimization. So I know that why our clients can operate like at a 4, 5, 10, 22x, it's purely because of simple factors. Now people go, okay, cool. I'm just going to take all this knowledge that Cory and Michael are going to share here on product optimization and I'll do it myself. But it's more than that. It's the ability to do it at scale for your clients and for it to be dynamic. So once you figure out what syntax or order the keywords should be in, actually having a way that can mass apply to your feed. Now, if you've got like 20 products and you run it yourself, take your time. But if you're running it yourself, you're probably not going to be able to do it like how we do it, because this is what we do full time. And it just reminds me, like this just constantly reminds me of the simplicity of this, that it's not easy, but it's simple, that the optimization of the feed, product titles, descriptions, custom labels, other fields, if you just do it properly and thoroughly from the start, it will literally be the biggest dividend paying thing in your life. Like these clients, from the work I've done from the start, are literally making millions of dollars just from a feed optimization that they weren't before. And just knowing that you can do that and you can profoundly shift a business, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like it feels like for me, like it is a bit of a magic bullet. Like it's not like you've got to do all the work and it can take days or weeks, but it really is a magic bullet in my opinion.
Well, I was just going to say, there's also the opposite side of it, which has happened to one of my accounts. It was not by the fault of anybody, but the developers. Developers,
the SEO specialist.
So it was last August, end of July. It was end of July, beginning of August, and they made a change. They were completely revamping their site. And they made a change that did a couple things. One, it stripped all micro conversion tracking, which we can get into how that can or cannot affect some of the results, whether they're set as a primary or secondary conversion. And it also stripped all of we essentially moved with the part of the change, we moved from a Google Sheet supplemental feed, which a lot of agencies out there live and die by. They said, yeah, I know we could get this software and this whatever, but honestly, Google Sheets is more than enough for us. We can put in all the formulas and customization that we want there. That's how we were doing it. We had a Google Sheet, thousands
Shout out
of
Google Sheets. Love you, brother.
It still works.
Yes, man. It's the OG.
And I had optimized the heck out of that product feed, to the point where we were getting really granular on getting creative and customized with titles and product types and things like that. On our top sellers, not the whole thing, because it wouldn't have made sense. But unfortunately, this change also moved everything to Shopify's product feed. So overnight, we lost the product types. I lost my custom labels for segmentation analysis. and also the structuring of some of the shopping campaigns, because you can obviously use those for structuring your campaigns. And the titles went from hyper optimized. I mean, we're talking not only like balancing search volume, what are people searching the most, but what makes a lot of sense and makes us competitive in this space versus products that are very similar to ours. All of a sudden, it just went to this generic thing. And let me tell you, what a learning lesson when you go from seeing what performance looks like on a regular basis to having this stripped down generic product feed. Literally, Michael, I swear to you, overnight performance dropped out. Not only did impressions drop, I mean, we're talking engagement metrics around click-through rates, CPCs stayed about the same, if not went up for some products. Conversion rates tanked as well, because now all of a sudden we're not as competitive and we're not ranking as highly. There's a quality issue. So man, just to see that overnight, I wish I would have had more of a heads up. Sometimes things happen and they just don't give you the heads up.
How often does a client give you a heads up with their website shipping over?
Well, I get it. Yeah. And I work with larger advertisers. They got a lot of different pieces. They have other departments handling some things and others. So I get the struggle, but you got to keep in communication with who's managing your account. It's so important. You lose money if you don't. Think about it that way. You lose money if you don't. So, yeah.
I've got two questions right now. Number one, what was your process to kind of get that back together? Did you use a key identifying factor in the new feed compared to the old feed, like an MPN or a SKU or
we had
something to do with it? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Because my brain always goes to the technical way of mapping it out again in the most efficient way. And I was like, there would be an identifier in the old feed that would be the same as the new feed, granted if they have like an SKU internally or a barcode number.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. Was that what you did?
Yeah, luckily it was not this arduous process to, like you said, you just get a key identifier or key field, key feature, whatever you want to call it, unique key, which in our case was the MPNs. Actually, I think it was the G10s, but whatever.
Yeah.
It was the G10s. And we got things back going. As I mean, I have automations that were like, what is going on here? Everything is dropping across all products. So I knew very quickly, and we addressed it very quickly. But also, maybe it's somewhat related. But I touched on the micro conversions. This is a bit of a separate topic. So maybe I'll circle back to that. We can wrap up on the product.
Well, this is definitely a conversation of success fundamentals to very advanced stuff. But this is a good conversation. Now, the other thing I just want to quickly ask, and look, this is just like unfiltered. How do you feel when a client makes a change on their website and everything drops?
How do I feel? Well, I mean, I would have, I feel upset because it obviously impacts performance for me, but I also, of course, I just hate that they're getting in their own way of doing well for their business. And it's not even like the client, it's some department or some agency they hired that didn't think through the interconnectedness of the digital presence for the brand. Like when you're going to change something on Shopify or something that's going to affect the products and their visibility, you've got to make sure, double check how that's going to affect things downstream. It's so important. So it's really just frustrating, I think, is the immediate emotion.
Interesting. Because this is being real raw, and it's just from direct, and this is more business. I like when things go really bad with clients on their side from someone else, because there's two reasons. Number one, it actually highlights how well our work is and was going, even if times like, how do we get this better? And it's like, this and this. The other thing is it also gives us the ability to show our expertise beyond the Google Ads or advertising account, because most of the time we end up identifying the issue, diagnosing it, and coming up with a strategy when someone else's job is to do that. Like someone else, like it could be a developer or the SEO person or someone internally, we end up diagnosing the issue, creating a strategy and recommendations. So in these moments, I know it sounds like this isn't a good thing, but it's raw reality business. I like it because it gives us the ability to step up in the client's eyes to show our expertise beyond the ad account. It also goes to show, and this is what I recognize, that most people in most industries are just average, because when something goes wrong, even when it's their specialty, they cannot diagnose a problem, and they do not have a clear action plan to get it back online or fixed within a reasonable time. And I've just noticed with myself and my team is anytime something goes wrong with a client, it's always us picking it up. And it's not because like, oh, the Google Ads results were down. It's just like, I don't think people have as much attention to detail as people think, as in on themselves or when they've hired people. Like you've got automation systems, as do I, and we pick up things really fast. And I just don't think people pick things up for days, weeks, or months. Like the amount of times clients have had other businesses of theirs where like the tracking's been down or like the checkout's been broken for a month and they don't notice. How can you operate like that?
Well, this is going to turn into a humble brag, but it's one of the reasons that I specialized in this so long ago is I started in the social media ads world, which is still obviously very important. That's where most advertising budgets still are. I think up to upwards of 60, 70% of
Really?
marketing budgets
Oh, I
online. It's
wasn't
very,
aware.
very high. And this is coming from like third-party attribution research,
Yeah.
things like that. And the power of
Sorry to interrupt there, but can I just say third-party attribution platforms are usually skewed towards e-commerce platforms, and a lot of e-commerce advertisers would be heavily leveraged on social.
It's a good point. Yep, absolutely.
Anyway,
yep.
but I just want to, that's just my nerd brain working. So let's go. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But when I worked early on in my career with someone, this is before I had built up the expertise on the search advertising side. I really saw the power of that both for e-commerce and for lead generation based accounts. Again, when you hear it, it makes a lot of sense. People are looking for something and you want to, if you have that thing, you want to be able to show up as soon as they're asking for it, right? That's what we're doing here. And so people pay us money to analyze the data and to figure out how do we do that as best as possible? How do we do this profitably as possible? How can we grow what we're already doing there? And at the end of the day, when we're talking about product feeds, this is, again, going back to simplicity, this is each title is going to be your billboard for that product. You have worked so hard as a business to get that product, to make sure it makes sense in the marketplace, to design it. There's been so much thought and effort and detail put into it. I can't stress enough, don't do all of that work and then just throw it out there. Don't do that. Just don't. But you see that all the time, especially with large product catalogs. They have so much to deal with. There's so much in terms of inventory management, in terms of all the different products and titles and the variances between those products. But man, if you're going to put a lot of time into something, it's got to be the product feed more often than anything else, because I would say, it really varies a lot, 50, 60, at least 50 or 60% of the revenue that is going to be attributed to shopping ads for e-commerce businesses, which might be like, yeah, of course it is, but you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people in the old school traditional mindset, they see Google ads or Microsoft ads as search. It's, search ads, whatever. And they try to treat the shopping side like it's the search side, in that they're like, hey, let's just get something up. Let's just get the product going. We'll do all the perfection stuff in terms of feed optimization later. But that is like doing a search campaign and only using broad match and never even trying exact or phrase match. Think about getting your titles and your product types and your descriptions down as a way of doing exact and phrase match. In other words, you are controlling the targeting and you are making sure you're not wasting money on people who are not interested.
Wow, that's actually, like, I know it's not overly, it's simplistic to think that people treat search and shopping the same or just treat shopping secondary. As I reflect on all of our e-commerce clients, 99% of our focus, time, and energy just goes into the shopping feed or the shopping campaign, as in like the feed optimization, all that. The search aspect, and you may have a very different opinion because you work with clients differently and you work with them at a different scale. I don't even touch on it. I just think purely from an economics point of view, cost per click on shopping is significantly lower than the search ad cost or the text ad. Could be up to 80% cheaper. And the conversion rates are usually the same, if not lower. Higher for the shopping feed. But it's interesting that a lot of people, like you said, do overlook it. They're just like, we'll just put the feed there and we'll focus on the search. Versus when I do lead generation, I am aggressively like doing the search campaign, because there's obviously no shopping feed. The search feeds, I like the search ads, I am so aggressively across. But when it comes to e-commerce, I don't even touch them, at least at the start, because it feels like such a like the shopping feed, and the shopping is the lowest hanging fruit with the biggest fruits on it and the most nutritious fruits. And the search I just find is very I just don't think it shows that a reasonable ROI just from my direct experience.
Yeah, so I think we're both trying to say put more time into it. And you know what? If you think
Yeah,
you perfected it 6 months or a year ago, look it over again. There's probably been some new products in there that you got to get updated. Yes, you can buy things or set up automations to dynamically create titles for you, but when you start finding some of your products or product categories are doing very very well, maybe that's because there's a new you're just entering a new marketplace, there's a new audience for those things. You've got to keep on top of those things. Don't assume the past is going to be what the future holds for you, right? So
no,
some products are going to get more popular, and if you're not on top of that, all of a sudden those old products that you didn't prioritize writing good titles for are
yeah,
now just having these substandard results. So make sure you're staying on top of your product feeds, keep them updated, keep track. And you don't, you've got tens of thousands of products, you can't perfectly, write
yeah,
the perfect masterful creative headline. So do 80-20, focus on
yeah.